On the top right hand side, you can see the approximate refundable amount that this software has calculated. So this software has calculated 2,423 euros for us. And I think one of the most interesting things about watching these kinds of videos is that you can know what are the expenses that you can claim in a tax return. I see so many people complaining about their tax return was not that much. They just got 10 euros or 15 euros back because you did not add those expenses. So the more expenses you add, the more refund you get. Hey friends, in today's video, I'm going to share how to file your taxes in Germany for free. This video, I'm going to share a free software from Check24. The deadline to file mandatory tax return in Germany is the 31st of July of the following year. So the tax return for 2024 must be submitted by 31st of July 2025. If you are using a tax consultant or a tax professional, then the deadline is extended about 6 to 8 months. So in this video, I'm going to share a free software from Check24. And at the time of making this video, there are 9 days and 7 hours remaining. And even if you have missed the deadline and you are obliged to file a tax return, filing a few days within the deadline is still okay. Make sure that if you're obliged to file a tax return or not, I have a detailed video. I'll put a link to that in the description below. So let's get started. Check24 is offering this tool free of cost. Obviously, it's not perfect, but I think for almost every single person who wants to file their tax returns, this can be a very good software. I'll put a detailed timeline to the different sections for the video, and you can also watch the section where I talk about whether this software or this app is good for you or not. So to get started, you just have to log in or register with Check24. This software from Check24 is totally free. It has a connection with the Finanzamt or it's an official Elster partner, and you can use it for free. Once you register, just click Weiter and OK. Here, I'm going to file a sample tax return for the year 2024. If you're filing for another year, you can simply select one of these years. If you're not obliged to file a tax return, you can file for up to 4 years in the past. So in 2025, you can file for 2024, 2023, 22, and 2021. So it can be a good option if you have never filed a tax return, or if you're a student, or if you are not obliged to file a tax return. In our example, we're going to go for the 2024 tax return. Now, this software is in German, but you can always use Google Translate to translate everything in English, which shouldn't be a problem. So this is how the app interface is. On the left-hand side, you have different options on the top, and on the right-hand side, you can see what is your current tax refund. So let's start with the normal details. First is the name, last name, date of birth, your profession. Here you can write engineer, the student, whatever is applicable for you. If you don't know, you can always Google, but it doesn't have to be very specific. This is to give a general idea to the finance office. So once you have added your name, date of birth, and details, click yes. Once you confirm something, you'll see this green color on the left hand side. Okay, so next we are providing our address and contact details. So are you currently living in Germany? If yes, then obviously yes. If not, you can file a tax return from outside Germany as well. So in our example, we are going to write down a German address. After that, you have to provide your family details. So if you are single, married, permanently separated, divorced, or widowed, write down whatever is applicable for you. So if you are married and want to file a joint tax declaration, you can do so here as well. But for the sake of simplicity, I'm just going to provide single, and the steps won't be that difficult if you are married. Only the amount of details would be double. For example, here we have the Mitarbeiter, and then if there is a partner, then you'll see a section for the partner. And similar for kids, you can provide the number of details for your kids, and it's not everything is intuitive. You can have a look at the right hand side. So again, for simplicity's sake, we're going to select single and without. After that, if you have ever submitted a tax return prior to this one, you can select yes. If no, then you can select no. As I mentioned earlier, you can file for up to 4 years in the past if you were not obliged to file a tax return. Otherwise, you would have already gotten a letter to file a tax return. So you select that. Next, we provide the religion information. Obviously, you can select yes or no. If you select yes, you have a very large list. So you can select whichever is applicable for you from the drop-down list. If you receive disability care, select yes. If you are on ongoing survivor's benefit, you can select yes as well. All right, so we have provided our initial or personal information. Next, we're going to go on the types of incomes that we have received. So as an employee, we have our wage tax certificate, which is lohnsteuerbescheinigung. We can select ways to work at home, then work equipment, mobile phone and internet, account management cost, tax software and tax consultant, application costs, trade union and professional association, training costs, moving costs, business expenses, double household expenses, and special cases. You can also add further details. And one very important point is with this software or with this app, you can also claim money sent to your parents, which is absolutely amazing considering that this is a totally free app or a software. Okay, so you can always select and unselect things later on in your process. So in this example, I'll be selecting and deselecting many things throughout the video. And as I said, you can always scroll to different sections throughout the video. You can watch this video at 2x and make sure to like it if you're getting value from this video. Okay, so one question that I often get is, what if you don't have this lohnsteuerbescheinigung? Ideally, you should get this in the December salary slip, but sometimes you also get it in the January salary slip. So make sure that this certificate is there. If you don't have it, try contacting your previous employers to get this information from them. So if you're using this app on your mobile phone, you can take a picture of your lohnsteuerbescheinigung and the data will be automatically taken over by the app. I would not recommend using this software or this app on your mobile phone because it's easier to scroll through the different details on a desktop or a laptop, and it's easier to use the Google Translate option if you are using it on the desktop or a laptop. You can obviously use it on a mobile phone, but as I said, I don't recommend it. So let's provide the details from our lohnsteuerbescheinigung. So first thing is going to be our employer, then the type of employment that we have. Usually it's either an employer, maybe you are a civil servant, mini jobber, pensioner, intern, student. Yeah, there are different things in German. Let's just go back. Angestellter, in student, you have Praktikant, Schüler im Praktikant, Student im Praktikant. So there are different options. In most cases, you would be either an employee, a mini jobber, or a student or an intern. In our case, we're going to select an employee. In terms of tax classes, you have to provide the tax class which was the latest at the end of the year. For example, you had tax class 1, then you got married, and then your wife was outside Germany. Your tax class still remains tax class 1, but you got married and your spouse, your husband or wife came to Germany, and then the marriage was registered officially. Your tax class changed. By the end of the year, it was tax class 3. So you write tax class number 3. But if you, or the other way around, your spouse was here with you in the starting of the year, you had tax class number 3, and by the end of the year, your spouse left, and then you were shifted to tax class 1. So you have to write down the tax class that you had at the end of the year. In our case, we're going to write down tax class number 1. After that, the duration for the certificate. If you had a single job throughout the year, you can write down from the 1st of January till the 31st of December. And if you had multiple jobs, you can always add another wage tax certificate. So make sure you provide information from every employer or every lohnsteuerbescheinigung that you have in a separate section. As I said, duration. Then point number 2 is the periods without entitlement to wage. This and capital letters, these should be written on top of your lohnsteuerbescheinigung. In most cases, you don't have to do anything and leave it alone because these are not written in most lohnsteuerbescheinigung. After that, we provide the gross wage, which is line number 3, then the withheld income tax, then the solidarity surcharge, and just fill out the details which are written corresponding to the numbers that are written here. As I said, these numbers are corresponding to the numbers that are written on your lohnsteuerbescheinigung. Once you have this information, try to fill out whichever is applicable for you. And in most cases, you'll be filling this out. Number 3, number 4, number 5 these days is 0, but in previous years, there was a solidarity surcharge. Then for most cases, then you come down to point number 22A, and this will be automatically filled out because usually it's the same amount from your employer. Then usually you fill out point number 25, then 26 and 27. These are the general details that are written on a Lohnsteuerbescheinigung, but obviously your case can be different. You can have things in lines 16 to 21. If you have something, write down yes, otherwise no, and fill out whichever is relevant. But I think in most cases, you fill out this information that I have written here. Okay, so if you have any other Lohnsteuerbescheinigung, you can select it here. Otherwise, you can go to the next stage. So here we provide the details for travel costs. Let's go back to English and provide the details. So did you travel from your current place of residence to your work? If yes, then obviously yes. If no, then you provide no and provide those details. But let's say your traveling was from this address, which we provided here. Has the employer specified a collection point? Usually no, if you're traveling alone. If there is something, then yes. After that, we provide the work address. So here it'll ask us to approve the distance using Google Maps. I think that this is the quickest way or the fastest way to find out the distance. But if you follow a different pathway or if the option is not available for you, you can always add this manually. So in this case, we have two options, the shortest distance or the fastest distance. You can select whichever is applicable for you and you can modify the time based on your specific case. Select confirm and then move to the next section. So after that, we provide the number of days in which we were working. In this case, I'm going to write down from the 1st of January till the end of the year. After that, we have the number of working days, usually is 5 days, but again, depends on you. After that, we have the vacation days, the number of sick days you had, and the number of days where you exclusively worked in home office. So let's say there were some days where you did home office in the first half of the day and in the second half of the day you went to the office, then that won't be written here. But if there were days where you exclusively spent the whole day or the whole working day in the home office, you write that amount here. Here you provide any additional days where you did not work. And after that, we let check 24 determine the working days. If the workplace was visited on Saturdays, you can write yes or no. If Sundays or public holidays were also included, you can add that details. But depending on our case, we worked 196 days and based on the lump sum amount, we traveled 196 days, 20 kilometers, and then for those days, we multiply it by 30 cents per kilometer. So right now, we would be adding this amount in our travel costs. So if you used a bus or a train ticket, then you can add those details here. But if you used a car, you don't need to add the cost here and you just click bestätigen. If you also had like flight details or other travel costs, you can also add it here, but in most cases, it's not applicable. If you were reimbursed or any subsidies were given to you by your employer, you can add those details here, but in most cases, it's usually nothing. Based on these calculations, this is the amount that the software or the app has calculated. I'm satisfied, so I'll click further. After that, in the general information, did we work from home in a specific room? Yes or no? If there was a specific room, then there are certain requirements that you need to fill out. If those requirements are fulfilled, for example, it's a separate room within the house or apartment, private use is less than 10%, and the study is the center of all professional activities. If yes, then you can provide yes. Otherwise, you can say whichever is applicable for you or not. But if you don't have a specific separate room, you can always use the home office pauschal, which we'll consider in the next option. So here we're going to take the flat rate, which is 6 euros per day, and we had 20 days. So 120 days lump sum amount would be taken into account. Obviously, as I said before, if you had a study or a specific room which you used for your home office and that complies with the requirements, you can use that, which would give you a higher return because you would be taking into account the rent, the heating costs, the electricity costs, and many things which can be added. So add whichever is applicable for you. After that, we have the overall result. And if you're satisfied, you can continue further. Okay, in the next section, we provide work equipment. So what would you like to enter? Did you have work-related laptop, office furniture? Was there any pens, papers, purchase and cleaning of work clothes, special literature, repair and maintenance? If there were specific things which you can provide proof of later on, or if you bought those for work, you can always go to individual details. And if not, you can always apply for the lump sum amount which is 110 euros without any receipts. So let's say you had some things that you bought, and then you can add those specific details. For example, you bought a computer. If you know the deductible amount, the date of your purchase, and the acquisition costs. There is something called the AFA table where you can find out the depreciation for specific items. In most cases, the complete cost for a laptop or a desktop can be deducted, but there are specific cases. So make sure that you select the correct option based on the AFA table. I'll put a link to that in the description below. So in our case, our laptop is 800 euros. The full cost would be deducted for the year 2024. The professional use is 100% because it's totally for our work purposes. And did we purchase any accessories for that? For example, a cover or an additional charger or something, we can add the details here, but we did not buy anything. So the laptop is here and we confirm the 800 euros cost. So here we've only added the laptop. Obviously, if you have other work related equipment, you can always go back and add additional work equipment. For example, screen, office chair, laptop, printer, cell phone, headset, copier, mouse, shelf, desk, lamp, keyboard, other tools, etc. So once you're done with that, you confirm. If you have specific details provided, we are going to select no or simply delete the section. But if you have provided specific equipment details, the equipment allowance should be no. After that, we said that we bought specialist literature. Let's say we bought books that are related to our work. If specific details, you can add the date of purchase and the designation and the amount. But in this case, we're just going to write down a total amount of 59 euros for these special books and special literature. So in our case, we have 800 euros for the laptop and 59 euros for the special literature, which we are happy with, and we continue with that. So next we have the mobile phone and internet cost. As a general rule, you can deduct 20% of the mobile cost and internet cost for your work related purposes without further details. So let's say you have a card from Aldi Talk, from eMobile, you write down the name of the service provider, telecom, eMobile, or whatever, write down if it was used throughout the year, if the monthly costs were constant or variable. Let's say I have an Aldi Talk package of 7.99 euros, and that comes out to be 95.88 euros for the whole year. Because the share was 20%, so it's about 20 euros in terms of total cost. You can also add another contract. Let's say the first one was for mobile phone, the next one is for internet contract. Let's say I had an 1&1 internet connection, 20% was the professional share. Every month I was paying 35 euros. So the share, which is the 20%, would be 84 euros. And if your employer reimbursed any internet or telephone costs, you can write down here as yes. But in most cases, it's not reimbursed. So we're going to write no. And the overall result is 104 euros in terms of mobile and internet costs. Next, we have the account management fee for our business bank account. The tax office generally takes into account 16 euros. Obviously, if you have a paid account, you are paying around about 30 to 40 euros per quarter. So it's going to be way higher. But considering what the paid accounts are offering, I would recommend that you move to a free account. People who are having Deutsche Bank accounts since they were students should definitely look into another account which is free of cost. You can look into C24 or N26. I have detailed videos on both of these bank accounts. You can have a look at the detailed video to save you like 50 to 60 euros per year. And it's a no-brainer to shift from those paid accounts. Okay, so next we have the tax software or tax consultant charges. If you have ever submitted a tax return using a software, let's say in the previous year, you filed a tax return for the year 2023 and you used a software which costs you, the average is between 35 to 45 euros and higher if you are doing it together with your spouse. But let's say in 2024, you used a software which cost 49.99 euros. You bought a book to learn about taxes in Germany. And if there was a contribution to Steuerhilfeverein, you add that. If there was a tax consultant that you used, you can also add that. But usually if you use the tax consultant, then you did not use a tax software, but depends on your situation. So in our case, we are going to write down these two things and then confirm. Again, the total assessment is 100 euros. After that, we have the application cost. So this can be a great thing for students or people who applied for jobs in the previous year. Every time you apply for an online job or send an online email, you can claim up to 2.5 euros per application. So I know there are students who send hundreds of applications. So this is where they can claim a large amount in terms of expenses. Here, there's another interesting thing for students. Even if you haven't earned anything, you can still file your tax return and claim expenses. Now, you won't get anything in terms of refund because you haven't paid any taxes or the amount was very low. What you get is a tax certificate, which is a tax loss certificate. And that certificate can be used in future years where you are earning a full-time salary and your income tax is high. When you file a tax return in that year, you can add this document saying that you have had losses in the previous years. And in that year, you can claim this amount which is written in the tax loss certificate. So let's say you had 200 applications that you sent online. So you can claim 500 euros in terms of expenses. And all you need to do in order to provide proof is that you sent the email, right? So even if you had sent via an online portal, generally you have a confirmation of that email. You have a confirmation that you sent an application. You have that in your email address. Maybe you also sent some physical applications, let's say 10. For each physical application, you can claim an expense of 8.5 euros. Next, we have the cost for traveling to interviews, meals that you had during that interview travel, any overnight costs, and any other costs. So this can be a huge benefit if you are applying for jobs, you're traveling to interview locations, and you're spending money on food. And let's say if the travel is further away and you had to stay overnight because the interview was early in the morning, so you can always add those costs here. And I think one of the most interesting things about watching these kinds of videos is that you can know what are the expenses that you can claim in a tax return. I see so many people complaining about their tax return was not that much. They just got 10 euros or 15 euros back because you did not add those expenses. So the more expenses you add, the more refund you get. So let's say you had an interview, right? And you travel for an interview. Did you use your own car? Yes or no? Did you use a taxi or a bus? If yes, then let's say you bought a single ticket, one for the way there, one for the way back. It cost you 200 euros in total. You can add that. If there were other fees, for example, you travel with your own car and you paid for parking, you can add that cost here. So in our case, we traveled through train and the total cost was 200 euros. We add that cost. After that, we provide overnight costs. Let's say for an interview, we stayed overnight and it was a hotel and the country was Germany. So we provide details for that hotel. Let's say it was a hostel and it's a popular hostel. You provide that detail. And obviously you should have an invoice from that hostel. Again, check your emails. If you don't have, you can provide a detailed description or detailed amount. And you can also provide a total amount. So let's say you paid 75 euros for that night. And were there any other additional food costs? Yes, the total amount can also be provided. And you can have a look at the total application cost. Obviously, 200 applications might not be a norm, but considering the situation these days, it's not that outside the realm of reality. So depending on how much you spend, make sure you add the correct information. And then once you're satisfied with the details, you can select further. If not, then you can always modify by selecting the drop down and changing the details here. We are satisfied and we're going to go in the further section. After that, we provide the details for our education or training. So first is the name of the training that we got, then is the type. So let's say in the type we have for a future employment relationship, for example, a master's degree or a professional internship. With reference to current employment relationship, example, dual study, without reference to the current employment relationship, for example, retraining. So let's say in the starting of the year, you were a student doing a master's in engineering, and this was for a future employment. You can add those details here. Obviously, the training duration, if it was continuing in the year 2025, let's say, because you're not finished with your training, you can say yes. The location of the training would be the institute or the university, and did the training take place mainly in your home? Was it distant learning? Yes or no? And was the training completed full time? Yes or no? This can be an important location for students to add details regarding their studies. But let's say it was for your current employment and it was a project management course. The training was a week long, so of January, from the 17th January till the 24th of January. And then you provide the location of the training. So in further details, you can provide the training fees, travel costs, packages for meals, overnight costs, interest rates on education loans, additional costs. In training fees, you can provide a detailed amount. So let's say first semester fee, second semester fee, everything that you can think of. Then you can add individual travel costs. For example, you can provide the travel costs to and from your university to your workplace, from your university to the library. Every visit does count. You can add the details for special material, any overnight costs, interest on loan payments for student loans. This can be a great thing, and additional costs can be also added. So if you have any specific costs, you can add those details here. Now, on the top right hand side, you can see the approximate refundable amount that this software has calculated. So this software has calculated 2,423 euros for us. Now, this is the maximum amount that we will get this year. Now, this is just an estimation. In our case, we have so many expenses that the total amount of income tax that we paid in this example is way lower than our claimable amount. So in this case, if everything is approved, we would get the total income tax paid. And then on top of that, we would also get a tax law certificate, which we can use in the next years, where we will be paying more income tax. So each tax law certificate can be carried forward up to 7 years in the future. So in the future, you earn a high income and your income tax was really high. So you use that law certificate from previous year to reduce your taxable income. So in this section, did you move for work-related purposes? Yes, you can provide specific details. First entry into service, transfer by the employer, change of employer. You can select whichever is applicable for you. And if you have a lump sum cost, you can also add that lump sum cost. So here we can also add specific topics which were not added previously. For example, business travel expenses or double household management or additional advertising costs, special cases for employers. You can select whichever is applicable for you. In the next section, we provide income from additional sources. For example, wage replacement benefits. If you received any sick pay, parental allowance, you can select here. Did you get any capital gains or interest? You can select here. Pensions, rental, leasing, self-employment, private sales or transaction. Here you can select this for Bitcoin or gold sales. Interest and other capital gains would be for your stocks and ETFs profit. Private sales would be for any profit from gold or crypto investments or crypto sales. If your broker is not German or it does not handle your taxes for you, then you would have to provide specific details from the tax certificate that they provide. If they don't provide the tax certificate, then you'll have to look into other things. So if they provide a tax detail, obviously you can look at specific lines. This certificate is again very similar to the lohnsteuerbescheinigung. You only match what's written in specific lines. For example, line 7, line 8, line 9, so on and so forth, and complete your details. Similarly, for cryptocurrencies, you can use the drop-down list and provide the details of the sale and the purchase time. For example, you bought it, let's say December 1st of 2023, and you sold it in, let's say, more than a year and the end of the year. So you provide the details. Obviously, if you've seen my videos, you know that crypto sales after 1 year are tax-free. So here this app is also letting us know that our sale was tax-free and it would not be reported to the tax office. But if our sale was not tax-free, meaning that it was less than a year, so we provide the details of the acquisition cost and the selling price. And if additional costs were added, for example, there was a gas fee. Obviously, it's not there with Bitcoin, but let's say it was Ethereum and then there was a gas fee of 10 euros. You provide that detail, and this is done for one coin. Here you need to be careful that you need to provide individual details. So if you have a huge amount of transactions, then it can be a very time consuming thing for you. Okay. After that, we look into the insurance and retirement policy, additional costs and house fees. If you had any craftsmen or household helpers, different donations, initial training without employment, church tax or church fees. So let's say we had these expenses, and in the insurance we had, let's say you had private liability insurance. You can select one from the drop down list and you provide the total contribution and select whichever is applicable for you. Most people have a private liability insurance, car insurance, accidental insurance, legal protection insurance. Some people have an additional dental insurance and occupational disability insurance. Make sure to add whichever is applicable for you and add the details and move on to the next section. So in the nebenkosten section, if you are not paying a pauschal for your household expenses in terms of like heating costs or hot water costs, then you usually get a bill 6 months after the previous year. So usually like I just got my bill today at the time of making this video. So you can add those details here. For example, garden care, building cleaning, building supervisor or housemeister, heating maintenance. So these things should be written in your document that you get from your landlord, or if it's a company, then the Genossenschaft or that company. So make sure to add all of those details here and proceed to further. And if you provided any donations to any non-profit organization, political party, independence voters association, religious community, assets of a foundation, you can add those details here as well. In the other topics, we have a very interesting thing. As I mentioned in the beginning, you can add maintenance and support services to your parents. This is an absolute game changer when it comes to tax return softwares. Many apps don't have this function, and I'm really surprised that even though this is a free software, they have many things that are not available in paid apps. So you can select that, care and residential care, illness and special features, energy measures, household information, loss carry forward, which I talked about extensively throughout the video, and any advanced tax payments that you did. Usually this applies to self-employed or freelancers, and any supplementary information that you would like to provide at the end. I'll go into the details of the maintenance payments. So in terms of, for most, or I think for almost every expat, you would be providing support. So who did you provide support? Your mother, father, spouse, if they are divorced, child, several people in one household. Make sure you look into specifics. And for most expats, not everyone is accepted. You can have a detailed look at who is applicable for receiving support from you. In this video, I'll put a link to that in the description below. So let's say you're supporting your mother, right? So you provide the first name and the last name of the supported person. Select confirm, and then you provide specific details about your mother or this person who's being supported. Then you provide the details and the marital status. Did the mother live in your household? If the address is in Germany or outside Germany, you can select the country where the person is living, and you can provide the specific details of the address. After that, if you watched my detailed video on this topic, you will need a maintenance certificate from the local authorities from your home country. Without that, I don't think it's possible to claim any expenses like that. Did this person have more than 3,875 euros in assets? Yes or no? If they had these assets, you can write the period here and the amount here. If not, then you can select no and confirm. After that, when was the support provided? Was it online transfer, cash and transfer? You can provide a mix of details here. After that, you provide the specific details of how many people were living in the household, not 15 for sure. And as I said, if you've seen my detailed video on this topic, all of these details should match the documents or the maintenance declaration document that you get signed from the local district authority from your home country. So make sure everything is matching that document and confirm the details. If you had supported multiple people, you can add the details for this person as well. And once you're done, click on further. At the end, we are almost at the end of the video. You can now provide the details of the tax office that is responsible for us. you can select from the drop down, and because they have already selected the tax office which is applicable based on the address that we provided. Then we provide the identification number, personal identification number, which is the 11-digit identification number. Then we provide the details of the bank account where we would theoretically be getting this 2,423 euros tax refund. So we provide the IBAN number and we confirm the details. We are now at the last step. This app is providing us certain mistakes. For example, we haven't provided our IBAN number, possible problems, and notes from this app. So make sure that you have no mistakes and you also look into possible problems. If possible, also have a look in the notes. After that, you go further and the submission is only taking place when all of the errors have been removed. Once you remove those errors, you'll get a document to have a preview of all of the details. Then you upload your ID and then you submit everything digitally. A few questions that you might have based on the frequently asked questions: is the Check24 tax really free? Yes. And why is it free? Most likely they want you to become a member of or use one of the services from Check24. Who is it worthwhile for? It's usually for employees and people who are working who don't have that many complicated cases or complicated expenses. But considering the options that we've seen in this video, I think it benefits almost every single case. However, there are still certain cases which are not covered here. For example, income from agriculture and forestry. And if the main residence or regular income is coming from abroad. So these are the few cases where this is not applicable. Otherwise, I think this is one of the best tax return apps out there, especially, and the fact that it's totally free is absolutely mind-blowing. So hopefully this video brought you value, and make sure to hit the like button if you got value from this video. Consider subscribing, and I would really appreciate if you share this video with your friends so that they can also submit their tax return in Germany for absolutely free. Now that said, I still filed my own tax return using WunderTax. There were certain things which were specifically applicable for me, and those features were not available in this free software. So if you're interested in filing a tax return using WunderTax, you can watch this video. And in this video, I share more details on how to file a tax return using Esther. So thanks for watching, bleib gesund, and I'll see you in one of these videos.